Now, the days of continuous violence and unrest has led to a state of emergency in LA County. KKL9's Cara Finstrom is live in the Fairfax district where members of the National Guard are standing by. Cara.
They are, and you can see folks just from the neighborhood walking behind me, everyone coming out to see what their neighborhood looks like this morning. And sadly, a lot of destruction here. Take a look there. You can see one of the armored vehicles in this community. The National Guard came out overnight. They have been here carrying M16s, keeping watch. There were clashes overnight as several hundred protesters converged here in the Fairfax district. Take a look. Police cars were set on fire when fireworks were tossed into them. Some structures were ignited too. Local law enforcement officers began clearing the streets once that overnight curfew was set and arresting anyone who refused to leave.
In a lot of places, you don't have public acceptance or public coordination on trying to stop the spread of this disease. There are people out there that just don't think it's as big of a deal as it's being made out to be. So how do you, as a health expert or somebody trying to create policy, how do you get through to those people? Is there a way to allow people to return to their not normal daily lives, but maybe their normal activities in a safe way? Can we reopen but do it safely?
It's an important question, Katie, and the truth here is that you're probably going to get buy-in from what we've seen in survey reports. 70 to 80% of Americans, hopefully we can get to the point where we're wearing masks, where we can't implement strict social distancing guidelines. But here's the sad truth. The sad truth is just like somebody 10 years ago could smoke a cigarette in your face and blow secondhand smoke in your face. I'm assuming that's unwanted. Right now, there is no law saying you have to wear a mask. Why isn't that the case? Why aren't governors making those masks mandatory? We had a security guard die in Michigan because somebody felt that they had the right to kill him as opposed to wear a mask, which was what he was trying to encourage a retailer at a Family Dollar store to actually just do. Wear a mask for the betterment of not only your own health, but those of your fellow Americans. We need governors to take a strong stand on masks because, frankly, I know it sounds simple. That's as something basic like that can save lives. We need mandatory masks. That's one way.
We talk about saving the lives and the livelihood of the American people and of course, the life of our democracy. So in terms of saving lives, the only way we're going to have rid ourselves of this as well as open up our economy is evidence, science-based testing. Just think of the T's: testing, tracing, treatment.
Put it very clearly, you have no constitutional right to endanger the public and spread a disease, even if you disagree. You have no right not to be vaccinated. You have no right not to wear a mask. You have no right to open up your business.
Wait, can I stop you?
Yeah.
No right not to be vaccinated, meaning if they decide you have to be vaccinated, we have to be vaccinated?
Absolutely. And if you refuse to be vaccinated, the state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm. If the vaccination
Where is that in the Constitution?
If the vaccination is designed to prevent the spreading disease. If the vaccination is only to prevent a disease that you will get. For example, if there's a disease that will kill you, you have the right to refuse that, but you have no right to refuse to be vaccinated against a contagious disease. Public health, the police power of the Constitution, gives the state the power to compel that, and there are cases in the United States Supreme Court.
I want to share about apps because you've heard they're voluntary, and right now, in the US, there's some apps out there, and we'll look at those, but they're about 2% of the people have downloaded them, and they said they need at least 50 to 70% of the population to download it to make apps effective. But how do these apps work? Well, let me share what they're doing in India. So India released an app, and they said this is a voluntary app. You do not need to download it. However, get this. In order to go anywhere, You have to have the app. So if you want to get on a plane, you have to show the app that you are not under quarantine or isolation. You want to get into work, you have to show your app. You want to get on a train, you have to show your app. So they said, oh, it's voluntary. They had the most downloads, more than Pokemon Go, because guess what? You couldn't go back to life without downloading the app. Now, I also put here New Zealand's app. What they do is they give you a QR code. You have to scan that QR code to get anywhere. So if you're supposed to be on quarantine or isolated, guess what? You're not getting anywhere because your app doesn't show you're cleared. So that's how they're really able to enforce this without a huge police or military presence, because you just can't go anywhere without the app. You can't get in the grocery store because they're going to have a QR code where you need to scan in. You may be thinking, well, do they even have that in the United States? Well, here's 4 states that already have their app ready to be downloaded. And like I said, they're at about 2% right now. But you might have noticed this on your iPhone the other day. This showed a software update. And if you didn't see it, you might have already got the automatic update. But basically it says this allows COVID-19 contact tracing apps to work. And you may not even have known it. It was a very quick little update, but it has already come to the United States. Recently, Google and Apple just gave out some information. I thought this was great. Here's the website at the bottom. Obviously, I want you to do your own research, but you can kind of see here how it works, that you can see that you're close to somebody and you get a notification that, uh-oh, you need to be quarantined. You were too close. Someone had it. And then listen to this. In this second phase in the coming months, this is really interesting because it talks about that they're going to use Bluetooth in the first phase, but without requiring an app to be installed. If a match is detected, the user will be notified. And if the user has not already downloaded an official public health authority app, they will be prompted to download an official app and advised on next steps. You're not going to have a choice. They're telling you it's voluntary at this point, but so was social distancing, and then we got locked down in our house. So it is not voluntary. This is happening, and you need to be aware. So I suggest this is a great document. Pull up this COVID-19 document that Apple and Google gave out. It really talks about all the different things that are going to happen because of the app, and it is scary. Just to kind of share with you the different states, if you think your state is exempt because of, it might be a red state versus a blue state, every state is doing this. Okay, so I would suggest checking out this bill, HR 6666. And basically, there's $100 billion that they're asking for 2020 and additional years for subsequent fiscal year financing for 2021 and beyond. So if you think this isn't happening and you think they're not investing a lot of money in it, they are. They're trying to get $100 billion to track and trace us and keep us quarantined. How do you think they're going to allow you to get back into society without being quarantined and isolated again and again and again, especially as disease spreads or we do more testing and we realize that maybe there's a lot of people out there that have it that just don't show symptoms, but they'll need to be isolated. You'll see that there's 120 antibody tests. In general, these tests are not reliable for the individuals to act based on the results. So basically, they're saying even if you had antibodies at the coronavirus, it's still unknown if that protects you from getting sick again. There's probably only one way that you're going to be able to get out of your house, and that's going to be vaccinated. So just watch out for that, because that is really becoming a hot topic of the vaccination, and that might be the only way that you're going to be released out of this tracking and tracing in terms of being allowed to go into stores.
Concerned that the message behind the protests of changing the way policing is done and ending police brutality was being lost.
Today I want to talk about what's really going on behind the scenes. Please like and share this video. This will probably be a very controversial video, but this is the truth. 2 years ago, I turned to a family member and I said, "We lost." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "We lost." Like, "Can you explain?" I said, "Yeah, the computers have won. They've taken over." I've been talking about the singularity for years. They've been talking about the singularity. D-wave computers, supercomputers, the AI, artificial intelligence, the merger of transhuman. Donald Trump just said this on Twitter. A transition to greatness, transhuman. human. That's where we're going. That's what the chip is. That's what Elon Musk's company, Neuralink, is. And everything that's happening now, planned social disorder, planned societal collapse, planned unrest, planned division, planned toppling of our government structure, what has been the constitutional republic in America, and transitioning to a new system, a new government, and a new order. Now again, people think I'm kidding when I say this, but I'm not. AI and supercomputers have ran all the various scenarios like a master chess player. It has superseded the intelligence of human beings. It is a million plus moves ahead of all of us tuning in. And it figured out a way to run various scenarios and inputs with its supercomputers on how to topple the United States of America and move us into a new government and a new system, something we've been warning about for over a decade. COVID was move one. George Floyd, and the euphemism of the boot of George Orwell's tyranny on your face. He said if you wanted a picture of the future, just imagine a boot on your face for all of eternity. George Floyd, George Orwell, the literal metaphorical boot on his neck. Again, this has all been run by a program, a computer program, AI. And they are 1,000 million times ahead, moves ahead, than any human being. And they are fooling the American public and fooling the world at large. See, the AI views the American people as the virus, right? You got to think from a computer's perspective. The AI views the American people as the virus. The invisible enemy, I've said this many times, is you. You're the enemy. You're the invisible enemy. That's what the virus is. In the eyes of AI, that is attempting to do everything in its power as it's already achieved, this already happened years ago, achieved the singularity, is putting these inputs to take over the world. Now, this is why all these billionaires are flying off to Mars and they spend most of their money and most of their time trying and attempting to go off the planet, because many of these people have already merged. And yes, I realize this is very controversial, but it's true. Many of these people have already merged with the chip. They've already taken the mark. They've taken this new system, and it's what they're pushing forward. In order to transition us to the new world, they have to seize the current economic, monetary, and financial model, which is what they're currently doing. And that's why operations are being funded in the United States in every single American city. Notice the police aren't even there to defend retail shops. They know this is coming in advance, but they're not defending property, life, and limb. Well, that's happening for a reason. This is no different than the Arab Spring in the Middle East, which was engineered, by Western powers. What we have is an engineered Arab Spring in the United States because the intention, foreign entities, foreign powers, computer algorithms, and technologists are overthrowing the American empire. It's done. I said this when I first got out here months and months and months ago when people said I was crazy, like, Christopher, why are you getting out off the mainland? I said, well, they're going to lock all of us down. They're like, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. I was telling all my friends and family to stockpile food and toilet paper and water and meats and poultry, everything that they could. The one thing that many of my friends and family stockpiled that it turns out we didn't really need, at least in the current environment, was gasoline. I actually thought gas would be rationed, but it hasn't yet. So that's been a pleasant surprise. It's been about the only thing that hasn't been rationed. So what we have is pre-planned engineered social disorder, a socioeconomic collapse, and the AI is also running psychological operations, warfare, and propaganda on the American people. Now, they're doing this through the mainstream media, which is controlled by the same people. Again, you have to look through the lens of the technologists. I won't name any names, but most of these technologists have already merged. They've got the chip. They're not normal. They're not. And so we're being integrated into a new system, a transhuman technological grid. And it's what they intend. And this is why I talk about these topics so much, because I don't know about you, I want to say what this future world will be. If we are the resistance, we are fighting and want to defend liberty and freedom then we need to participate and attempt to build the counter systems and the counterinsurgency, much like the movie Hunger Games, and the people are at war with the capital. Notice that those live in the capital actually live in their own self-created, self-induced hell of gluttony, of egoism, of intense wealth as they sit in their citadel castles. And then the rest of the people in the districts are scrummaging for food, shelter, and water while they're attacked by the machines in a very fragile system at the epicenter of all of it. And the truth is, the American empire is incredibly fragile. The whole system has been drinking the Kool-Aid for the last generation or so, and the whole economic, monetary, systemic model is broken, and it's never going to come back. The point of this video, please share it, like it, get it out to your friends and family, is to reveal to you the real hidden truth of what's happening now. An AI, computer algorithm, pre-programmed, pre-planned, a million chess moves ahead takeover. Engineered, instituted collapse of the United States to a new global government. It's what's happening now, and that's why there is a societal breakdown. Again, there's many, many moves to this equation. You'll see the next move very soon. Remember I told you there'd be phase 2? Well, we're in phase 2 now. Phase 3 will be coming next, and it's already rolled out and figured out through its formulaic equations many, many moves ahead. Anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, questions in the box below.
Now they're listening to this and they're in denial. That does not help. I'd rather you not hear any of this at all. Erase all of it, which you can't, but in every context, erase all of it, heal yourself spiritually, and don't focus on any of this stuff. This is only for masters of the game. This is for those that are diving back into this to actually carve out other spectrums and vibrations and frequencies that we feel are habitable. Goals in life are simply to really create worlds. Worlds are also nations. They're actually a way of life, how we think, what we believe, where our money comes from, what we create. Notice in cultures, you got cultures that specialize in certain things, pots, silks, colors, dyes, something specific to them that the rest of the world needs. So that's building a nation. That's creating a community. That's what we've been working on. We've been creating an ecosystem for 11 years at Secret. When dealing with fears, you only need a friend. We would go on the wildest adventures. Like I grew up by a military base. So some of the times we would go on an adventure, we would go into those areas where we weren't supposed to be at. And none of us were scared because in my mind, I'm thinking, what are my friends' name? Brad. You know, Brad was a badass. So I'm thinking, man, Brad, you know, we run into some danger. Brad's going to do something. And I'm sure Brad's over there like, shoot, I know we run into something. James is going to do something. And we're on this journey fearless. So it's just a hard-coded model that when you're doing it with friends, you don't have the same fears, if fears at all, associated when you're doing it alone. So get with others that are around you. Heal yourself spiritually. That's what I'm here to tell you today. There's an artificial future coming without a doubt. Unless you want to go against, as you can continue to study and see what pickle they're in. If you want to try to push against that, which would mean, what would you even be pushing for? You going to push for China? Like, you got to actually get on your own here in a moment now. But you don't got to be by yourself. If you feel alone, you still got breath. All of your allies are still clear. Water, clear. Those are our greatest allies. And it just keeps going on from there. And with the best on your team, these are the winners. These are the real winners in the existence. Wind is not worrying about death. Anything that moves becomes it. Also, maturity is key here. This is why we're having this conversation today. I really want those in the tribe that feel they're ready to continuously step in the maturity of themselves and the adepthood of themselves by knowing what's going on, but being unwavered by it. Lastly, when you see financial technologies, because that is the emerging future, it is here now, fintech, financial technology, what you notice is the numbers are stupid. That's our term, right? 42 trillion, okay? So it becomes kind of obvious, especially with the stimuluses that are coming in, that things are going to probably get a little more expensive at least. $15 maybe on a Big Mac. So this means that beyond UBI, which is universal basic income, which is pretty much being deployed right now, $1,200 ain't enough. That's welfare though. There's some people that were already living on $1,200 before the people who now don't have jobs anymore try to figure out how to do that. This also means that you're going to have a whole current in the reality, 20, 30, 40% of the people that didn't consist of the upper middle class, that they're going to just be so upset, so angry, but so not caring about what happens because they don't feel empowered that they could do something about this anyway. If you jump on that boat, you'll have a horrible time here in the future. It's time for you to empower yourself. It's time for you to be the Lord and the master of your own life. And it's also time for you as an adept to know how the world's moving and how the world's changing, who's moving it, who's changing it, and why. And that way, even if you're educating your children, maybe your child decides, you know what? I'm going to increase my stake in the game. I'm going to actually develop something that's going to solve these problems because now they're aware of these problems. You can't solve something you're not aware of. So we owe it to those who depend on us, especially if we're their parents or we act in any form of mentorship for them. We owe it to them to bring solution. Do you know what ties us into the physical reality? We're in love with this. That may sound silly to you, but yet you got folks here. You got babies here. You got things that you love. You got memories here. That's why we're into this. You don't get into something like this without that. Imagine vast being, limitless, goes into limitation for what? Love, connection, experience. Because in the other space, none of that exists. That connection, we're all connected. Experience, we already know everything. It's unmovable. Do you understand? The air does not move. Air does not exist there. There is no air. There's nothing to breathe. So even the little things that you cherish so much about this space, they're not there. It's a whole nother thing. I'm not saying it's boring because some people are like, well, that sounds boring then. It's beyond that. I can't explain it to you. So while we're here as masters in the game, we might as well learn exactly what's happening around us and exactly how powerful we truly are.